You're not doing it because of the money.
Right.
You're not. It is your why. Like you love it and you feel passionate about it.
Yes.
And that's what you need to drive that, right? Because like money isn't enough. Just the desire to have money is not enough to make that happen.
Amen.
You have to have this desire and this drive. Like, where do I see myself in 10 years? And you've got a path, man.
Welcome back to Real Investing, where we talk about real investing for the everyday investor. Tim Herriage here with my buddy Ryan Harper.
Hey, Ryan Harper here.
And our good friend Jason Money McDougall.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for driving in. I mean, I know it's just so hard for a guy like you to, I don't know, leave the country.
The country, baby. Yes.
Decatur, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the main stomping
Like
grounds now.
Yeah. More North Fort Worth than ever before.
Well, I think what's awesome about you is the fact that you have reached what people say they want, which is, I'm a real estate investor that doesn't work, right?
I still work.
Do you though?
I don't hustle and grind my tail off.
That's
like
that's a better.
Okay, fair.
Thank you. Yes, that's better clarity.
Fair. Yeah.
I like how he said hustle and grind, because it's really both, right? Like the hustle is a grind.
No doubt, man.
So, okay, so we're kind of talking like this is a new thing, but how long you been doing this?
9 years.
So, you and your wife, you're kind of agents, kind of flippers, kind of rehabbers, kind of property managers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind
all
of
above.
a dad.
Yeah.
Like,
Kind of
yeah.
bad.
Kind of a dad. I'm a lot of a dad. Yeah.
well, no, I mean, I think what you meant, what I meant was you and I talked one time. It was kind of like, no, dude, I insist. I'm picking my kid up at 3:00 every Wednesday. Something like I don't work on Wednesdays.
Yeah, bro.
or-
I'd volunteer at his school and just hang out with him. And like, I make sure I'm home by the time they get home from school. Like, that's more important to me than hustling my ass off and grinding.
That's where I was going. Not kind of a dad, obviously a dad, but
But that goes back to what I was alluding to is like that's where most real estate investors want to be at. Because the reason you get into this business is they want the money, but they really want the freedom, and what that means is time.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right?
so how's the market?
Market's good.
Which part?
Under $300,000 in Wichita Falls.
Okay. Is that still good?
Yeah, it's still good.
Man, I was looking up there. I wasn't sure. Are they moving, or is it the rental market? What part of that market's good?
Sold a flip last week. It was like 45 days on market, but I put it on market, Thanksgiving-ish time, so it was kind of slow.
Yeah.
But it closed last week. Got another one closing next week, and we got another under rehab. I mean, they've all been moving, so not sitting on inventory.
Are you doing those as virtual, or are you actually going out there and checking in on them?
Maybe like twice a month I go and check on them.
Okay.
So I've got contractors I've used for a few years up there, and they take care of stuff. A lot of text messages.
And I'm guessing that's because finding anything in DFW under 300 is impossible.
Yeah, and also you have to hustle and grind your ass off to find something in DFW. Like the inventory is just so tight, man.
Right.
I don't want to compete with that.
So for people that are listening that don't know Dallas, Fort Worth the way we do, DFW, when you're saying that, you kind of mean more the inner primary market. And what is, explain to the listener that may be from the Northeast, where Wichita Falls is.
Wichita Falls is 2 hours north of Fort Worth. So, like, I think the counties that kiss the Dallas-Fort Worth area are, like, the sweet spot. Like the tertiary markets where there's, like, 150,000 population or less in the whole county. That's going to be the sweet spots where there's still deals that are easy to flip, not too much competition, and also cash flow for rentals.
Yeah, and it's also path of growth, right? I mean, because eventually, as this, especially Dallas-Fort Worth, keeps happening, right? It just expands.
Yeah.
So you said less than 150,000 county population. So on my guidelines right now at Ternus, I actually say 100,000 population is the minimum, which is actually, I think it gets rid of part of that county, but then not the other part of the county. Are you looking, like, when you say the county, though, are you doing rural properties or properties in remote markets but inside the city?
Yeah, inside the city. Not really rural stuff. I've done some rural stuff in, like, Wise County, and that's, like, 70,000 population for the whole county. But the primary focus, I think, is Wichita County for the flips and the rentals. The rural stuff would be, like, land plays.
Do you think there'll ever be a time when Wichita Falls is considered just north Dallas-Fort Worth? Because what I'm getting to is as you just alluded, it just keeps expanding, but it's expanding because it's so expensive. So then they just go farther north. Because Prosper is the new Frisco. Frisco is the new Plano. Plano is the new, on so on and so on. Do you think Wichita Falls will ever be part of the Metroplex?
I don't think so.
Too far?
I think it's not on 35. So I think 35, anything up 35 and down 35 will benefit. But off 287, I mean, I don't think that Wichita Falls is in the path of progress.
I would consider Wichita Falls right now a tertiary market. I think it will become a secondary market, right, as we continue to expand. I like that place because as a lot of investors are looking for new places to invest. The thing about Wichita Falls, there's a regional hospital, right? There's a Home Depot. There's a Walmart Supercenter. There's the county courthouse. There is the county homeowner housing authority, the Section 8, the HUD, right? There's an Air Force base, right? Like there's infrastructure in this remote town that we saw it in 2008 and we saw it again a little bit in COVID. When there's turmoil in the economy, people tend to gravitate towards the county courthouse because that's where the assistance is, right? Like money dries up out on the farms, people come into the town to get assistance or buy things, or the farther out shuts down because there's not enough money to spread around. So I feel like as long as you're in the cities and these areas that I use a regional hospital, that's like my number one thing I look at.
Yeah,
like
man.
It's kind of, if there's a regional hospital there and a county courthouse, that's probably a good market in Texas.
And you said Home Depot, and that's
Yeah.
a key one too. If there's a Home Depot, like they don't put Home Depots in places where they're not expecting growth.
Right.
And it's just so much easier to flip a house when there's a Home Depot nearby.
Does Home Depot follow Walmart, or is Walmart a little bit more ambitious with where they go?
I think Walmart's more ambitious.
Because
for sure.
because I think that's a good indicator. It's like only invest where there's a Home Depot.
Yeah.
You know, Walmart used to want to put the Walmarts in these kind of towns, but now with the Supercenter mindset is they want to leapfrog about every 15 to 30 miles along main thoroughfares because they know they can choke out the local competition.
And they know people will drive in.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
They get it. I mean, so Bowie is between Decatur and Wichita Falls. There's a Walmart there. There's no Home Depot. There's no Lowe's. There's none of that stuff. But you're right. They choked out like all the other smaller suppliers and competitors.
But there's one in Decatur, a Home Depot.
There's Lowe's there. We don't have a Home Depot in Decatur.
Home Depot, Lowe's, same damn thing.
No.
Oh, no, sir.
Says the guy that doesn't flip.
No, sir. Inferior compared to Home Depot.
Unless you're a homeowner. If you're a homeowner that wants to stand in the way and buy nothing, Lowe's is where you should all go.
Because this is sponsored by Home Depot, why do we choose Home
please.
Depot over Lowe's?
The pro system for Home Depot is way better. Like whenever my contractors in Wichita Falls buying something, they give the pro desk my phone number. I get a text message. I can select which of my credit cards that's already loaded in my system to put it on, and it's approved. And I can see what they're buying. Lowe's, they got to do a phone sale. I'm like, bro, it's 2025. I don't need a phone call to give you my credit card number. And then, like, what are they buying? Are they buying Mountain Dews? Or, you know,
So you can look at right there. It's like, oh, they're getting this. Okay, approve.
like, hey, put the Mountain Dew back.
It's nice. You click on the little link and it pulls up a Home Depot shopping cart. And like, look, as a investor, you have to worry about these things. If the guy's buying tile, is he also buying knee pads? And how many sets of them is he or she buying, right? I mean, because like before you know it, you're buying their tools when you're only supposed to be paying for their labor. Like, so you just got to be careful.
Well, I feel like Home Depot's always been ahead of the curve when it comes to technology, because even like Homevestors days, they were trying to do that app where Homevestors could order from an iPad all your. I don't know if that went anywhere.
They got it. It's good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can order from an iPad?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
The SKUs are loaded in, and so they have this little software thing. When they walk the house, they do the rehab scope, and they can hit submit, and it goes straight to the pro desk.
It loads
with
all the SKUs.
Yeah,
Oh, that's pretty trick.
straight to the bid desk.
Nice. That's pretty good.
Check, please. Hello, John Gordon. So let's talk real. A couple years ago, you and I had lunch at 1050 Barbecue.
It's delicious.
I actually was supposed to eat lunch there today, but I didn't because I knew I had to sit here for a couple hours, and
You don't want it to settle
yeah,
in.
you know, it's like next thing I'm taking a nap, and everybody else is like, okay, Tim. And we were talking about scale, and I was in not a rut at all, but I was in this time of my life where I was taking it easy.
Yeah.
And you were running, was it Nextera?
Nextera home buyers.
Nextera home buyers.
Yeah.
And you were really scaling.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, dude. I think I think I said keep it small and keep it all.
That quote that you said has stuck with me for all these years. So I appreciate that.
Well, but now I see what you're doing, and I was just like, I think a lot of the audience, if you're going to scale, you better have a specific intention behind that scale.
Yes.
We were discussing earlier my plans with Ternus.
Yes.
It's not just growth for the sake of growth. There's a very deliberate plan.
There's some sort of exit, right?
Yeah. Well, because even if I don't do what I was telling you earlier, the plan was always I started out as the president in year one. Due to some things we're doing next week and now the size of the company, I'm actually going to take the CEO title next month.
Oh.
Wait, this is already February. I'm taking the CEO title this month as we become Ternus Incorporated and are no longer Ternus Lending LLC. So there's kind of a plan behind that. And then eventually we either exit the company in one way or another, or I take my seat on the board of directors and hire a CEO.
Dang, dude.
Like it's not like this is not a job that I intend to have, but
Sure.
What happens is people want to scale, but if you're going to scale and quote unquote replace yourself, you have to have a big machine with redundancy.
100%.
Otherwise, every sickness, every illness, every flu, every problem, you're not like retired anymore.
That's
it's
right.
like you're back in that chair,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, exactly.
I love this conversation, even though I feel like every other interview goes to this, but I love it anyway. And
It's the entrepreneurial dilemma, man.
well,
No doubt.
keep it small, keep it all, but yet you probably have to do it all to keep it all.
You do a lot more of it.
Right, because if
Right.
you keep it small, that obviously means you're going to have to do a lot of work. Because I recently was on a call with a buddy of mine this week, and he was like, "What are you doing over there? Doing this, that, other? You could just do it all yourself, keep all the money." I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, because I want to own a business where if I want to go to Tahiti for a week, I can. I want to own a business to where I have people that do everything, and I can do maybe there's an exit, maybe there's not an exit. I don't know. But I want that aspect of it. And I think starting with the exit in mind, I don't think real estate investors think like that. Because, again, it's the next week, the next deal, the next buy call. How do I get my money for 123 Main Street or ABC 2 Street or whatever?
Right.
You
But
know?
it's also like life by design, right?
Yes.
And when I was talking to Jason, and I've kind of watched what he and Miranda do and some of their friends, and it's life by design. And there are seasons of life. Like that's what entrepreneurs really got to understand. There was a certain season of my life after how hard I worked for Blackstone and then the failure that was 2020 REI, that I needed to take a step back, spend time with my family, find myself. Because it's not about money. I had money.
When
right?
you say that, I mean, that's real, though, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be like, what is important to me? What
Barbecue.
do I really
I
want?
dove into barbecue. Like I gained
did,
30
bro.
pounds and I started eating barbecue every day. And
You found yourself. You found a little bit more of yourself.
yeah, I
I
created
will
more.
say the best ribs I've ever had is by this guy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sure he really appreciates that compliment. That's
It-
for a barbecue guy.
Yeah.
And now back to the other podcast,
yeah.
Barbecue with Tim Herriage.
I mean, there is like 1 part meat, 3 part salt, but it was great.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's cured, and so are you. But no, I mean, so I was at that season, and it was kind of funny. We took Finance of America public in 2021, and Jeff Tesh at RCN called me and was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I was like, "Day trading." He goes, "Oh my God, you're wasting yourself. Come get back involved." And he offered me to get back involved on the national scale. And at that time, it wasn't about money to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, "Look, I'll do it, but no direct reports. I'm not coming into the office. I don't care about the title. I'm just strategy and, like PR." He was like, "Perfect." And so at that time, it was lifestyle by design. So I spent 2 years living the dream life and job. I'm the executive director for this multi-billion-dollar company. I've got the title. I've got the recognition, expense accounts.
No direct reports?
No direct reports. Salary, bonuses,
dream, baby.
equity, 401ks, like all of it, right? And I work from home. And it's just me and the CEO talking about our plans. And I'd go to conferences and stuff. But again, my work wasn't getting behind because I didn't really have a work.
Yeah.
I was just like getting paid for my advice.
And you left that?
That's what Jennifer keeps saying. No,
Well, let's get to the part where that fell apart for you or something. 'cause
Yeah,
that
it's
sounds
like,
pretty good.
He had a falling out. He shot the guy.
I was talking about seasons. Because make no mistake, where Jason's at right now is not where he'll be 10 years from now. Children will get older, right? These little boys, like, they're really cool when they're like 4 to 8.
Yeah.
And then they turn 15 and you're an idiot and they have Snapchat and girls to talk to. So
I believe that.
you
I know it's coming.
and your wife gets bored with you being around now you need her to entertain you. You don't have the little boy to like go hunting with. And what happened is then I listened to a book and Simon Sinek, Start With Why again. And I got motivation and found a purpose that I thought would be great to transform. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we kind of gave Main Street to Wall Street with B2R. And I saw an opportunity, what I believe is to take Main Street back from Wall Street by creating some innovative financing products. And I can't say the next part that we discussed over there that I'll be able to say soon. And then, just giving the industry back to Wall Street. And I think I can do that in a couple of years, and that can be my swan song on my little mark on the industry.
But to come back to that, you're not doing it because of the money.
Right.
You're not doing it for any other reason that it is your why. Like, you love it and you feel passionate about
Yes.
it. And that's what you need to drive that, right? Because like money isn't enough. Just the desire to have money is not enough to make that happen.
Amen.
You have to have this desire and this drive, like lifestyle by design. Where do I see myself in 10 years? And you've got a path, man.
Well, see, and so our fifth core value at Ternus is service. And I tell my team every time we talk about the core values, I say, we make millionaires. And part of that is like this really deep appreciation for this industry, that it can take an idiot like me that came from where I came from. And, we joke around, pull string, go boom, right? Mm-hmm. That, I mean, I'm just a Marine that like learned how to travel the world and do things that I hope my kids don't do.
Yeah.
And the fact that I found this industry and it turned me into what I became as just an entrepreneur, as a property owner, my net worth and my asset base. I love helping other people obtain that.
Yeah.
And I get so many people after 23 years in this business, they reach out like, dude, you made me a millionaire, or, oh, you helped me do this, or, oh, you helped me this. And it's like cool to win with other people.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so, and I even tell my team on the flip side, I'm like, look, we don't just make millionaires with them. I've given my entire company has stock options. I do profit sharing. So it's like, we're riding this train together. Like all of us, me, my team, my customers, like
You're elevating everybody.
we're all going to become millionaires. We're all going to have fun and we're going to do the right thing.
I love that.
What's cool about what you just said is before you got here, Jason and I were talking about how the early, right before COVID, it felt like the high school era of real estate investing where you got to go to the prom, you got to go to the dance, everybody hung out, go to the games.
There was the cool kids.
It was the
not
cool kids,
Yeah.
and we had these big meetups, and then COVID hit. And then after COVID, it's like, I've had some meetups here and there, but it wasn't the same kind of vibe
Yeah.
as like that 2012, 2020 era of going to meetups and seeing the same people and having that community aspect. And he's out of it. I'm out of it. It sounds like you're still in it. And like, cause everywhere we go, people know you, which is cool. But like, I'm not in that world anymore. So like even was like, hey, let's schedule some people for today. I'm like, let me tap into the 3 people I know still,
Dude, you don't sell yourself short. I mean, everybody in the industry still loves you and they know you.
Oh, everybody loves me.
And-
Of course. How could you not love
And
that?
Lord, I was talking to my partner Bill today, and I was like, he goes, that Ryan Harper, he did a great job on our podcast. He goes, am I going to get to see him again? I was like, dude, you're going to see him. Like, he's going to help us throw a party at the boardroom thing.
Yeah,
And
nice.
we're going to do some podcasts while we're there. He's like, oh, I need to talk to him about my podcast. Like, people love this guy, and they always have. But you're right. Like, in 2018, when we stopped doing DFW Investors, it was no problem to put 500, 550 in a room every month.
Certain people can do that. Because I still think industry standard for that is like 50 people. But for you, for me, I'm basically giving us compliments.
For us.
For us.
It was no problem.
If Jason wanted to do it, it'd be like 25 people.
But now,
Absolutely.
it's funny, man. Like, I'm going to an event. I was supposed to go to an event later this month. I'm not going to. I'm sending a sales guy. They were like, oh, it's going to be a 500 person event. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And they're like, yeah, maybe 50 to 100. I'm like, yeah, have fun. Keep my sponsorship money. I love you guys. It's all about the relationship. It really is. Like, the only reason I sponsored it was a vendor friend of mine said, I want to throw this. And this was in November. And I was like, I have no idea what my budget's going to be next year. What's the minimum level? They were like 5 Gs. I was like, all right, we'll do that. And we'll figure the rest out when we get closer.
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh, it's going to be more of a VIP level. I don't give a shit, man. Like, I'm not doing it for the leads.
Yeah.
Right? I did it because we know how hard it is to set up an event. And sometimes that early money is the make or break of the event.
Right.
Sometimes that early support is the difference between calling it off or not. And so I was just like, look, I'll give you $5,000. And now I've got a new sales guy that is really aggressive. He's kicking everyone's ass in his third month.
Dang, dude.
And he saw me reshare it on my Instagram. He goes, sign me up. I'll go. And I was like, done. Buy your ticket. He goes, I was joking. I was like, I'm not. You know,
Go.
you just told the CEO you were going. So, you know, no takebacks.
Yeah. And I live in Texas, binding agreement.
Yeah. I'll let your boss know that you're going.
Yeah.
You know?
What happened though? What you get back to your point though? What happened between 2018 to COVID where that changed? What do you think happened? Where that feeling went away, or that
I don't know if the feeling has gone away. I just know that
not in it.
That's what I was saying. Tim may still be in it.
yeah.
But like, I just don't know of any like DFW Investors was a large event. The Propellia event was a large event. The event was a large event. RE Meetup wasn't as large, but it was pseudo large. But basically the events that I've been a part of, they were large. But post that, I don't really know what's going on. And you gave me a grin. And yes, it was a humble brag, but at the same time, it's true.
It is true.
I don't know of any other local events in DFW that are large like that.
It is very difficult. Well, number one, so real estate investors are not making money.
Agreed.
They are bleeding.
Agreed.
Most, specifically those that revolved around ordinary income from flipping or transactional income, they're bleeding.
Let's dig into that.
Well, hang on.
Yeah,
and the other is landlords are bleeding as well. And I covered this at a board meeting last week. I have properties in Texas that have more equity than I've ever had before, that I have a 3.25% mortgage rate on, that the cash flow was 1.25 times the payment, so a 1.25 DSCR in 2019. They negative cash flow now by $200 a month.
Those taxes.
Taxes and insurance.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw the California wildfire, and I want to get to cover both of these. Yesterday, State Farm asked the state for an emergency premium increase of 22%.
In California?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's going to start happening with these hailstorms, tornadoes,
man.
floods, all this. Like, and it's going to, the regulators are going to approve it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be pain at the pump. And that's what's going to drive house prices down. Not drive them down. Keep them from continuing up at the pace they were.
Yeah.
Not interest rates. It's the ancillary taxes in high insurance and high property tax markets. So the next opportunity becomes, and this is three things we can talk about, finding markets with low property taxes and low insurance, because that's where people are going to migrate. Now, which one do you want to tackle first? The transactional people are bleeding?
Well, everybody's bleeding. But
Yeah.
Choose your adventure.
Wholesale, flip, assignment income. A couple years ago, to make 30, 40 G's on a house was pretty damn easy.
Yeah.
You just put it on Facebook or went to a meetup and said, hey, you want this? And they said yes.
Yeah, especially pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. But nowadays, I feel like, number one, there's less buyers in the market, like less investor buyers in the market, because rates are higher, properties are sitting on the market longer, properties are extremely hard to cash flow as rentals. So that pool of buyers decreased, where you don't have like a bidding war over properties anymore. I'm not in the wholesale game anymore, so I'm guessing that's probably the case, though.
To that point, real quick, just a quick anecdote. And again, I freely admit that I'm not in the market, so I don't really know. But, 5 years ago, throw a rock, you will hit 3 wholesalers.
Yeah.
For like 10 years, 90% of the people were wholesalers. And it was like, if you had a pyramid, it'd be wholesalers, then you had the flippers.
Realtors.
And well, I don't include them in this conversation. But you have the wholesalers, then you have the fix and flippers, then you have the landlords.
Landlords. I
And
like
then-
that.
I love that.
That's really good.
And then you have the private capital. And that was kind of that pyramid. But I feel like that pyramid is completely shattered because,
It's kind of a totem pole now.
yeah.
But look, I mean, it's the same reason you said you can't get 500 people in a room. It's because they're not in the industry anymore.
Right.
And I mean, I look back, you said about 4 or 5 years ago, my nieces and nephews that were in their 20s, their friends were all getting their real estate license. And I just found I was just like, why? But it was because you could get your real estate license and sell 3 or 4 houses a year and make more money than they could make doing anything else. And so that's dried up, right? The wholesale game is dried up because back then I could make 30 and the next guy would sell it to some other girl and she'd make 20 and she'd sell it to a guy and he'd make 20. And before you knew it, there's, 100 G's worth of assignments in there and the end buyer's happy.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all right.
Yeah.
And it's dried up a little bit with the increased cost of transactions, increased cost of borrowing, increased cost of operating assets. And then I think that does dovetail into the rental game. I mean, look, Jennifer and I, and the hedge funds too, we're net sellers, right? We are selling more from our portfolio than we are acquiring because it's simple profit and loss statement, right? And it's hard to let go of a 3.25% interest rate.
But if it's a loser, as far as cash flow goes, there's no point in keeping it.
Because it's robbing from you every week.
You can't eat net worth. Right?
You cannot buy groceries with it.
That's right.
You used to be able to go to the country store in Decatur and say, here's my chit, right? I'll sign my name and I'll pay you in a couple months when the farm field comes in. They don't do that shit with these rental properties.
No, sir, they don't. That's a good point. Keep it squeezed.
But yeah, I mean, it's so like when the demand drives up and the supply drives up, the universe chasing it is just not there. So I feel like, look, that's one of the amazing things about Ternus and why I started it when I did. I think if I can get this company off the ground in probably the worst, like literally 2023 set a record for lowest real estate transactions per capita on the MLS. And then 2024 broke it. And all indications are that 2025 is going to break it again. Like, transaction volume has never been this low. And so if I can build a company that thrives in that, when we turn a corner, whether it's through a downturn or rate reduction or government assistance to build new inventory or whatever it is, we're just going to explode.
Yeah, it's all about processes and then the procedures, SOPs, because if you got that, again, like to your point, if you can be successful when you have to be, then it's easier to be more successful when you don't have to be.
Right.
Because I think there's a lesson there because it is hard to be scrappy when there's a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah.
When there's no meat, you got to be scrappy.
Yeah.
So I think that's I'm not saying it's a great thing that you're doing it, but I think it'll pay dividends in the long run.
Well, they say, hard times make strong men make easy times, and easy time makes make weak men.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of us that have been doing it long enough, we become all of that. We become the strong man, then we become the weak man, then we become the strong man. Because you don't have to be scrappy, it is really easy to get undisciplined.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it is really, Casey Smith talks about this a lot, right? Then it's really easy once you're undisciplined to get caught with your pants down, and then you have to get disciplined or die. I mean, it's just one of those things. So what are you doing different in today's market, Jason, on your portfolio to weather the complexities of the real estate market?
So I'm not adding as fast as I used to for the rentals. I'm still adding though. Like if a deal makes sense to add it, I would still love to add it. If it cash flows with taxes and insurance and all that, I'll add it. But a lot more like land type deals, man, where I'm not like flipping a ton of houses like I used to. And I'm not wholesaling any houses. It's mostly like land deals that I'm buying and putting on the MLS or selling to neighbors, whatever.
So you've said land deals 3 times. Tell us about some land deals.
Land is good. Land is good. So my favorite deal I've done recently is I bought property in Decatur for $55 and I sold it for $145 in a week.
55 million?
No. How? What? Huh?
Yeah. Man, those it's an untapped market, I feel like.
Like you bought it off MLS, you found somebody that had like a 5-acre piece of property with a mobile home. Or
Tax delinquent.
Tax delinquent.
Vacant land.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you just flipped the land.
Yeah. Called the neighbor before I was going to put it on the market, but I was like, let me call this dude next door and see if he wants it. He's like, bro, if I get that, I can have ag exemption because I have 3 acres, you got 3 acres, I'll have 6. I was like, oh, I should have priced it a little higher.
I think there's a huge lesson there, not just from the tax delinquency side, but to the fact that it's like it would be so painfully obvious. Why didn't the neighbor just sell to the neighbor? It's because the neighbor didn't think to ask, or the neighbor didn't even know.
The neighbor was dead. He was dead.
He should have prayed. No.
How did I don't know
But
how
my
to do
point
that.
being is like, but the overall point there is like, there's opportunity right in front of you, but you have to be the one to like seek it out.
You have to be a little scrappy in this market, like we just said. Like you
Yeah.
can't just like go on the MLS and find a deal and pitch it to some other buyer. Like it takes some ingenuity and finding some deals.
So let's get real about that. So let me break that down to the way I'm thinking about it, and then you tell me if where I'm wrong.
I like it.
So you're in a market most people aren't.
Yeah.
You're looking at a lead source most people are too lazy for
Uh-huh.
on an asset type that most people ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So it's opportunistic.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, again, how do I have the most amount of time possible to spend with my family with the least amount of effort and making money at the same time? So I'm like, how does that all work? And I found this strategy. I'm like, oh, shit.
Now Miranda's like, just do one of those a month, honey.
Yeah.
We make 100 G's a month. Life is good.
She kicks me out of the house every day.
I-
Go get some money. Bring home the bacon.
Real quick though, I think there's we glazed over that too quickly.
Yeah.
I think we should slow it
Sorry.
down and then really, because I think that's like, if you're new to this business or even if you're established in this business and you're struggling, it's like find a damn whiteboard and then build that matrix of what you just said. What is nobody doing?
Yeah, so
like,
it's the
let's
who
just slow
moved, it's
down.
the who moved my cheese, right?
Exactly.
So
100%.
so you take that whiteboard and you kind of say, okay, I used to do this. I used to mail the probate list in Garland, Texas. And now everyone's so desperate for inventory. Anytime I get one of those calls, I end up bidding 80 cents on the dollar and still losing because somebody either has an idiot pocket buyer or they have cash burning a hole in their pocket and they have to buy an asset. Okay, so we can't continue to compete there, right? We're just, our return on ad spend's going down, right? We're not meeting payroll or making enough revenue to sustain our operation. And ultimately, it's diminishing return. Even if you do get an asset, every month your return on your ad spend and your net margins are going down. So then you think, okay, what could I do to maybe buy that house better? Like, do I have a process issue? Is it my salesperson?
Yeah.
Is it my presentation? Many people only approach it with creative offers because they watch a YouTube thing.
Yeah.
And getting creative with an offer and tying up a contract does not equal revenue. It just, and if it does, it's often a lot less realized revenue, so it doesn't move the needle. So then you have to think, is it a different geography? Could be. Is it a different type of asset? I'm not winning on houses in Garland. Do I need to chase industrial? Do I need to chase office? Do I need to stop with the probate list? And you can do this in Garland, Texas. Go to the fire chief's office and get the burnout list of the weekly fire calls, and then go around because people are underinsured right now, right?
doubt.
So it's kind of like being smart about the market. People are underinsured right now. So if they're underinsured and they have a fire, they get a check, they probably have to sell. If they have to sell and it was burned out, who's going to buy it? An investor, right? So that's a way. The code violation list you can get from the city. That's one of those lead sources that isn't necessarily automated through all the big like Propelios of the world. So that's something you can go after. And that's how I kind of figured out what he did when he said tax delinquent. It's like, okay, it's a small town like Decatur. The courthouse probably isn't super automated. He probably has his morning coffee with his kids and drives over to the courthouse on the 20th day of the month, grabs the list, has to pay the lady to copy them. This is the way the shit worked whenever I got in the business.
Dude, you're old school. You're dating yourself right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like, please copy this for me, or they give you. Used to
And he
listen.
found it with his Mapsco.
Mapsco. Baby, I had a Garmin.
Dude, I
on the windshield.
upgraded to MapQuest. I'd print that shit out sometimes.
Did you have to reverse your directions too?
Well, so what I'm hearing though is like, I think at least from when I used to be in this business more, and I'm like I haven't said this joke in a long
Say
time,
it.
but real estate adjacent. That's me.
That's
I'm
you.
adjacent nowadays. But it's people are so excited and keen to hustle and grind that they don't pause, find a whiteboard and use that, what's that S word, that strategy,
Yeah.
and people are just go, 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 and they don't pause. It's like, hey, if you just spent 30 minutes and like actually had a real strategy, that might pay dividends versus just like, what are you doing, Jason? Let me just copy what you're doing.
Right.
Sam, what are you doing? Let me copy what you're doing. And I think, at least historically, I think that's what the business was, especially with the newer people.
Yeah.
Where they just try to copy or pretend to copy what the other person is doing because they're chasing success. But it's
True.
like, slow it down.
Well, even the
Pause.
neighbor you called to sell the land, was it a junky house of someone that looked like they had no money?
No. So I looked at the land around and I was like, who owns all this shit? And I found this guy owns this one over here. He owned like several around it. I was like, oh, he's a buyer. So I called him. And he was like, absolutely, I want that. How did I not know that was for sale? Like, it wasn't for sale, bro. But you got to get scrappy. And like you said, probates, you can still make money with probates, but you're not going to just send postcards out and make money anymore. You have to get scrappy, have a strategy.
Like what?
How am I going to find these people before anybody else does? How am I going to contact these people before anybody else does? I'm going to call them. I'm going to pick up the phone and single dial, not multi-line dial with a VA, pick up my phone and talk to somebody and say, hey, saw you filed probate. Are you interested in selling that property?
Yeah.
And that's, man, I get deals that way too. But we talked about keep it small and keep it all. It does require more work on my part. I'm not going to be able to outsource a ton of that to VAs and stuff. So it's a lifestyle by design, though.
But those calls you're making, you're not calling every probate in Dallas County this
No.
week.
Right. You're making like 5 or 6 phone calls a day, and talking to folks, and you get some real deals out of that, no doubt.
Well, it's targeted too. You're probably only calling the ones that
I know, yeah.
look like they have an asset you would be a player.
And
on.
like if the wife is still living there, I'm not calling that, obviously.
Right.
But if like the child filed for the probate and I see that on the probate application that it's a different address than the property address, I'm calling that. And I'm saying, like, can I get a listing because I'm an agent, or can I buy the property and flip it?
So you're working for your money?
Oh, baby, I love it.
It's such a novel concept.
It's
though.
crazy, huh?
Because the old fire and forget it marketing, right? Like
Yeah.
you even alluded to it. Spin up the dialer, right?
Yeah.
Get a cold caller. Send them the motivated seller list.
Yeah, dude.
Buy it from this lead provider. Batch it over here. Da 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 da. It's like
That doesn't work right now.
No.
I mean, maybe it works for some. It didn't work for me, so I stopped doing that because my cheese moved.
yeah.
Well, I think a point there is like you're saying you make 5 or 6 calls a day, whereas other people are like, if you're not making 100 calls a day, if you're not knocking 100 doors a day, you're missing out. And I think, but that goes back to that hustle and grind
Yeah.
versus strategy and lifestyle by design.
We all get this for freedom, right? And a lot of people forget that. They get the paycheck and they're like, oh, I'm in this again. Like, you're now in another job that you created for yourself. Like, screw your freedom. You're back in the hamster wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So what's a day look like for you?
I get up 5 or 6 o'clock, try to work out, take my kid to school. I got an office in Bridgeport. I go there and I hang out there and do stuff till about 3 o'clock and head home.
Go pick up the kid.
Go pick up the kid, man.
Enjoy
it.
And I'll just say, I mean, even as a guy that's running a big company now, my day's about the same, except for I have a teenager now, so I seem to I think I'm an Uber driver as well. It's just I don't get paid, and the app is a text that says "Get me now," and then I get there, and it's like, never mind.
Sir, yes, sir.
30 minutes
Oh.
later, it's like whatever. Just get a Wi-Fi hotspot and a laptop. But yeah, I mean, look, I take my kid to school every morning, and I don't pick him up most days because Lord knows what time that'll be. That's my wife's
pickup
thing
line.
to figure out. Well, no, it's not that. It's just he plays baseball, 7-on-7 football, football off season, and has a social life. So, like, it may be 4:10 or it may be 6:30. Who knows?
You got to
right?
let her get out of the house, too. She needs to get out of the house.
Yeah. So, but no, so I you don't have to only keep it small. You can prioritize it,
Sure.
right? And that's important, I think, for all entrepreneurs, because your most important point is you get into this for freedom and trying to create a legacy for your family, but then you ignore your family
Yeah.
and your freedom because you start chasing the legacy. And that's my personal website says, remember, the business is the vehicle, not the dream.
Yeah.
And I think all too often we let the dream become the vehicle, and that was just backwards.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, man.
So what are your... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say to that, it's funny because this past weekend, because I'm in the SMU program, the MBA, and but I'm also in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business, and also I have a company, and the administration, they were like, apparently there's chatter now like, how is Ryan doing all these things? Like, how is he doing this and that? And I was thinking about that over the weekend because like it was Sunday 10 o'clock at night, and I'm on campus studying and doing my stuff there, and I'm like, well, this is why. Because I don't have a family, I don't have a girlfriend, I don't have a pet. So the only way I can do, I know, don't like, I cried when my dad. I'm actually about to cry just thinking about it. But
That's pretty sad.
I know. Well, you know, you
It
lose
was
your
recent,
dog,
and
it was August, yeah.
Oh, man.
But it was like a 10-year dog. I love him, guy.
I get it. I get it. It's part of the family.
It is. Well, he was the whole
He
family.
was your family. Yes.
He was my family. But my point to all that was the only way I'm able to do that is because I don't have those other aspects.
Yeah.
But like if I had those other aspects, but that's my sacrifice right now. I'm killing myself right now to be able to did I just say be able, whatever, it doesn't matter.
It sounded good.
It sounds good, yeah. It'll be great on Spotify. But I'm killing myself now so I can afford the luxuries later.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, the only reason I'm able to do all those things is because I do have the system in place, the trusted people in place at the company that allows me to do that. If I didn't have key people at the company, I would have to be grinding and doing it all myself.
Well, it's the season of life you're in. I think too many people want the result without the effort.
Yes.
And
I want to be an entrepreneur. Do you?
yeah.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for. Yeah.
I mean, you know, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to get to speak with Ed Milet on a stage, and I mean, I don't know if you ever heard him talk. I mean, it's just one of the most powerful speakers I've ever heard in my life. But in his book, The Power of One More, it talks about like being that generational change in your family, right? And you know, like being the one, and so many people that are attracted to this business, like we don't have the best story. I mean, you know, tomorrow I'm going to my brother's funeral who overdosed with heroin, and his wife overdosed with heroin. And they've had 5 biological children and never had custody of any of them. Like, I mean, we don't all come from where you may assume, and the struggles and the seasons we go through on our way to our destination is what makes us so strong. So, and if you think that Jason hadn't had plenty of days he had to miss his kid's stuff, or plenty of nights where it felt really scary, right?
No
then
doubt.
you're missing probably the most powerful part of his story.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was only through those things that you maybe decided to do, and then the pain of realizing it was the wrong thing to do,
100%.
and the journey of getting to where you are now, that you couldn't be there without that.
You have to go through those things.
Right.
You have to go through that to experience that pain and fail and, you know, level up from that point.
Well, one thing from doing podcasts with Tim and doing this other show that I do, the Deal Table, and all varying levels of success. And the one thing I've learned, when you put that entrepreneur hat on, you all have the same problems. It's just where's the comma. You know,
Yeah.
so like think about it. Like if you're if you're a brand new investor, maybe you're a 1 comma problem, but it's the same problem as the guy that has 4 commas.
Yeah.
And it's the same problem. It's probably people, technology, and what's the other one? Processes.
Look,
Usually it falls in that bucket.
That's pretty good.
I ran a company for Blackstone. They have hundreds of billions of dollars under management.
Couple of commas, yeah.
There were times the company credit card didn't work
Jeez.
at a Blackstone company.
Jeez.
Now, don't get me wrong, we spent a ton of money on that card. But you'd think Amex had a little button in the back that said, oh, it's Blackstone. They're good for it. But like, it happens.
Dang.
And when it happens, and you're at the table, and you're entertaining these people at a $6,000 dinner, and you got to reach in your back pocket and like, man, I hope I don't get fraud guarded. This shit's going to be embarrassing. And you put your card out, and it's your own personal card, and you're working for less than you thought you should have because you're an entrepreneur and you wanted to get equity or whatever. And that charge goes through, and then you get a text from your life like, what the living hell are you buying? Right? I mean, look, the whole point is, even when you're the big guy at the end of the table, there's some scary moments.
And again, it's the same problems as the little guy, but where's the comma?
Yeah, right?
You know?
You may be worried about a $60 dinner. I had a $6,700 tab that you know, I mean,
Well, and that's the thing is also it's like when you do put that entrepreneur hat on, like the money, like if you wrote me a check for $100,000 right now, I'd be like, cool. But it wouldn't be like 5 years ago, like, oh my God, this is life changing money. Ah, you run around and like, oh look at me. But like when you have large bills where you could deploy that money immediately, you're like, I mean, you're still grateful, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, okay.
so what?
I'm sure if I gave you $10 million right now, you'd be like, cool. But it wouldn't be like, because you probably have already allocated.
I just did, man. Like, I don't,
Right, but it's not like 10 years ago where if somebody said, Tim, here's $10 million, you'd be like, holy shit, this is life changing money.
Yeah.
well,
And I don't want to downplay $10 million or 100,000. It's still a lot, but when you're an entrepreneur, unless it's $1 billion, even then, $1 billion to somebody like Elon Musk is not that much.
well, like I'll put a bow on that for you. So
I like boats.
in our first 12 months of business, we successfully funded 125 loans, a little over $21 million. Last month in January, I was looking because I was interested. We had about $6 million come in and out of our company bank accounts between the money market, the operating account, the reserve account, and the trust account. So you may be someone out there may be thinking, that's a lot of money. It'd be nice to have control or power over that. The reason I was looking at it is worried about financial controls. So the more you have, the more someone can take. And I see a path to where that will be 10 million a month pretty soon. And then it will be 20 million a month. And then it will be 40 million a month. And then like another company that I'm a member of, it's over 200 million a month. And with that, the old Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah, dude.
So I'm dealing with other people's money. I'm dealing with personal debt. We both know someone that had millions of dollars stolen from him overnight by a lady that was wire kiting. So the reason I was looking at it is I'm just like, okay, we're at the next phase of growth. I have a controller. She's full-time for me. I have a third-party bookkeeping firm that's beholden to me to watch after her. I need a CFO so that the CFO can start managing that process so that I'm not the one managing it. But the CFO needs to be in a different office than the controller so that they never get too close and they can never influence this person, so I have checks and balances. Like,
Jeez, dude.
yeah, it's what you have to think about, right?
Yeah.
But with that comes expense.
Yeah.
CFOs aren't cheap,
I'll bet.
right? And then we're looking at signing up for a $10 million warehouse line. Okay? One of the biggest scams employees run is forging release of liens.
Oh, man.
Yeah. They swap a payoff out, they send it in, they forge the release of lien, $150,000 vaporizes. You don't know till that person tries to refinance or sell again. Could be years.
Wow. That's a real threat.
Oh,
You got to look out for. I wouldn't even thought about that.
yeah. Trust me, I think about it.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
Wire fraud. Think about it. We send hundreds of wires a month. So it's, to your point, the more commas, the more fear, because at the end of the day, I bought my partners out in December.
Dang, dude.
It's just Tim and Jennifer.
Dang.
Like, and we're all in. So
You are.
It's fun. But you were talking about your season of life, and I want to say, you're not killing yourself.
Yeah,
But-
I know.
But
It's all about growth.
you signed up for a 2-year gauntlet.
Yeah.
And what people have to understand is you can never give up in the middle of that gauntlet, because you signed up for that gauntlet for what's on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And what's on the other side, I just can't imagine a 2-year SMU MBA and the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. I just can't imagine that you won't come out such a powerful individual,
Right.
intellectually. Not
That's-
just the people you meet, because
Yeah.
that'll be great too.
Yeah.
But just the intellectual power to change your business, it'll be worth it.
One, the connection. Well, it's funny because like there's in my MBA class, there's already been like 1 or 2 drop off that just
Wow.
couldn't handle it, and I always go back to 18-year-old Ryan, first week of boot camp, senior drill instructor, sitting everybody down, going, hey, look at this as a prison sentence. Do your time, get out. And that's how I look at those programs, where it's like, yeah, it's hard, but what am I going to do? Quit?
Yeah, not an
Like,
option.
it's just not an option. And I think that's another aspect of being an entrepreneur is like, when you're in too deep, you can't just quit.
No.
Like, there's just no quitting. And it's like, as an entrepreneur, you have all these things backed up. And I think when you're an employee, you do have the luxury of quitting. And as an entrepreneur, there are other options. Maybe there's exiting, maybe there's folding, but you can't lose if you don't quit.
Yeah.
That's
I
what I
agree
would
with
say.
that. Yeah.
There might be a season, to Tim's point, of, increment failures. But if you don't quit, that failure is never a lost battle or a lost war.
But I disagree, and I want to kick it to him after I finish
please
my
do.
disagreement. I am a firm believer in quitting because you cannot be perfect, and every business venture or business line you get into will not win. And I have had more losers than winners. But stopping doing something doesn't mean quitting altogether. So when I want the entrepreneurs to hear this, you may start a wholesale company and find out you suck at it, but it doesn't mean quitting wholesaling means you have to quit all real estate together. You may be a lot better at flipping. You may be an amazing landlord, but a shitty call center, wholesale, boiler room guy.
Sure.
Do you agree?
100%, man. Like, I've come up with all these ideas, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I start doing it. I'm like, oh, this is a terrible idea. Oh, I got to stop this immediately.
One of my favorite social media posts was when you were really growing Nextera. You had the assistant that was like smoking weed in the office.
No,
or
she was
something?
huffing an air duster can, bro. And she passed out. And I was like, I'm a terrible manager of people. I should not be doing this.
Real quick though, like, I don't disagree with that statement. I think my point is you should be able to identify, is this worth going to finishing? Do you
Yeah.
pivot or do you fold? And I agree with that because I think, yes, you can run yourself ragged, but
Investable realty was a horrible idea.
and I think a couple people told you that.
Yeah, they did. And I did it.
But you don't still have it.
No.
Right.
You quit it.
Now, I quit it wrong. I should have converted it to EXP like I was told to, and then I'd probably be making like $50,000 a month. But anyway,
Ah.
But the point is, like, identifying when something is. I think there's a difference to be able to say quitting something and identifying, hey, this is not a good idea. And
Or
that
it was
goes
a
back
bad
to
idea.
Yeah.
and that goes
Yeah.
back to the who moved my cheese aspect of it.
I love that.
Well, and with properties too. I mean, my wife gets really emotional about certain properties or why she bought it or when we bought it or what our interest rate is or whatever. And for me, they're just numbers in a spreadsheet, numbers and letters. And I even our personal residence that we recently sold, we lost the HOA battle. We had hundreds of thousands in equity. We sell it, and there's, $500,000 in cash sitting in the bank. And she's just like, I miss that house. I'm like, why? I mean, we're getting 5% interest on $500,000 and a money market account, and that's actually better than the appreciation we were getting on the house. So, what do you miss?
Women
And
are
she's-
more emotional.
Well, but then we start buying these notes because I sell some of my hard money notes to other investors. And I was like, Jennifer, let's start buying them. So now we're making 12% on the money. Well,
Shoot.
guess what? I said, take the $500,000, buy the notes, take the 5 G's a month in interest, and let's buy you a Bentley. Well, guess who loves the idea of selling a house now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does she have a Bentley now?
It's on the way.
Ooh, fancy.
Before
love
we
it.
get to
It's
wrap
like
it up,
Applebee's.
before we get to wrap it up, I do want to tell. I don't know if you've heard the story, and it's been a while since I've told the story. But several years ago, there was a young, scrappy entrepreneur who would do a lot of bandit signs. And do you remember this?
Oh, yeah. How could I forget?
So, Daniel Moore, founder, CEO of Propelio, we're in the car, and we see a bandit sign that we know who's the owner. So he calls it, and basically pretends to be code enforcement, saying he's going to fine $500 or something per sign. And his squirming on the other end of that phone was the funniest thing I've ever
It
seen.
scared the shit out of me. I was like, oh, shit, my real estate career is over.
Yeah,
I'm done.
He's like, I've got 100-year signs in the back of my car at $500 a pop. And he basically was alluding to like, hey, pay me off. And he's like, because he was dancing around it because he didn't want to incriminate himself. but it was the funniest thing in the world.
It was only scary because in 2011, when I attempted real estate, I did put out bandit signs, and I got caught red-handed hammering it in the ground by a police officer at midnight when my wife was driving, and I almost got handcuffed for that. And I was like, so that was like deja vu. And it was worse than deja vu.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, my life's over.
Yeah, it was so funny though.
Oh man. I want to ask you, what's next for Ternus in 2025? We haven't talked about that at all. I'm just curious because you and I don't talk very often. So, what's the big plans for Ternus this year?
Ternus, we did 125 in our first year. We'll do over 850 in our second year. I still believe it'll be over 1,000. We're launching affiliate programs, but it's going to be 2 levels deep. So it's like every loan, anybody you refer ever takes, you get $500, and every loan that anyone they refer, you get $250. So yes, it's multi-level marketing for our industry, and I don't give a damn. I think it's gonna be great. I can pay Google or I can pay you. Pick which one. We've got some really creative ways of raising capital. We're going to sell equity in the operating company. The only way you can invest in hard money lenders nationwide is through debt funds. And the problem is when you invest in a debt fund, you're kind of screwed if the loans go bad.
Okay.
If the loans go bad, they can just say, oh, well, you knew the risk. Good luck. And then the operating company just goes and forms a new debt fund and raises more capital from someone else. And I feel like that's not a very good investment vehicle. And then if the company becomes worth a couple $100 million or whatever, then the debt fund investors don't win with the company. So we're looking at several different ways, and we're working with some securities attorneys where we're going to do a Reg A, a Reg CF, some sort of crowdfunding thing where the everyday investor can own part of the company.
That's awesome.
And a lot of it, Jason, comes from, I read Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And there's 3 reasons everybody gets into this business. And I boiled it down. There's only 3 every time. They want to make money. They want passive income or cash flow. And they want a legacy or freedom. They say freedom, but most of the time it comes from owning assets they can leave to their kids, right? So it's a legacy. And so when you read Start With Why from the lens I now have after 20 years of making mistakes, you realize that if you have a commoditized product, you lose. And lending is the most commoditized product I've ever seen in my life, right? It's only about rates and fees. Only about rates and fees. And I found myself driving to Salt Lake City, and I was like, how do I make lending not commoditized? And I said, okay, well, Simon Sinek says, figure out what your customers really want and then give it to them and make your company, and then if you believe in that, your company vision, mission, purpose, it all lines up. And, it's just now you have an intrinsic value. You become Southwest Airlines, right? You own 20% of the market, period, end of story. They won't fly anything else, even when it's not even the low-cost airline.
Oh, yeah.
But people that love Southwest, and they won't fly anything else. And so I just thought, I was like, okay, well, people want to make money. They can do loans with us to make money. Check, right? That's number 1. Number 2, passive income or cash flow. Oh, we could give them equity in the company and pay dividends. All right, that's cash flow. Check number 3 or 2. And long-term equity, long-term growth, equity, legacy. Okay, well, if I increase shareholder value, grow the company, make it bigger, make it worth more than sell it or exit it, that's long-term wealth and legacy. So if I can do those 3 things, then the existence of my company actually satisfies the core emotional support reason that the people are even in the business. And so then I thought, okay, well, there's 3 pillars, the golden triangle, as Simon Sinek calls it. I start getting on ChatGPT. I look for threefold.com. That's not available. I'm like, no, I want something shorter. I was like, what's Latin for three or threefold? And I having chat help me out, and it came up with Ternus. I was like, oh, let's see if I can get that name. And paid some guy whose last name was Ternus $15,000 for his URL before the company. That was one of those Amex texts my wife got, like, what the hell are you doing to GoDaddy for 15 grand? So Ternus is Latin for threefold, which is the 3 pillars we'll stand on, which is we help people make money, create cash flow, and build a legacy for their family. And they can do it by just doing business with us. They can do it by owning part of our company. We intend to operate with speed, transparency, and dependability at all times. And that's why the logo is 3 different colors of triangles. So
Bro,
the entire purpose of the company is embedded in the name.
I love that. You put a lot of thought into that.
A lot.
That's really good.
You asked me why I left that cushy job.
That's
The more I thought about this, I just could not get it out of it. It was I got goosebumps, right? As an entrepreneur, you know, sometimes we get bored and it gets lonely and it gets repetitive.
Yeah.
And it's not about the money. I have plenty of money. I could retire today. And man, the more I thought about this, I just couldn't get it out of my head. It was waking me up at night. Like,
Damn.
it was like a passion, a calling. I was like, this could be big. And then, like, the poetic part that I helped give the industry to Wall Street with Blackstone, and I could, like, help take it back and own it. It's just cool, man. I have a lot of fun doing what I do. We make millionaires. We help people. The feedback I get is it's better to do business with us than anyone else. And as long as we do that and we're on time every time and dependable and we don't yank people around, I love doing what we do.
I love it, bro. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
It gets me excited. And I can't wait. Like, I mean, you know.
It was like, tell us how you really feel.
Well, on the,
man.
on the 21st of February, we're rolling out something that I'm not allowed to talk publicly about because of securities regulations, but it's going to be game changer. It's going to be game changer.
Well, congrats.
Nice.
And I'll tell you more off camera.
Yes.
I want to keep talking, like, because it's like I can't talk about it. Sorry.
Tight-lipped.
But didn't you just say you can't talk about it, but then you just publicly said, I'll tell you off camera? And
Well, I can't, like,
You can't offer
publicly.
you are my friends. I have a pre-existing
Got it,
relationship,
got it.
business relationship with you. We can discuss things in private. If I discuss it on a video, and if the video were to get leaked, it would be considered offering a security
Got it.
prior to the security being registered.
I think you just said too much.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just stop.
I want to tell you this, like, as a man, as a father, I respect you so much.
Likewise, dude.
The transition you've made. When we had that lunch at 10:50, I literally, the best thing in my life would be if I could help people avoid the mistakes that I've had to endure. Because it's hard and it's lonely as an entrepreneur. And when you risk your family and your wife and your children, like, it's scary to be a real estate investor sometimes. And but then, like, to see you just take it full force and you've got a course that I've been through a little bit, the lean landlording course, which I love that message. It's like there's more than just one way. You don't have to be the bigger than everything everybody. Like, you can actually just do this and have fun at the same time if that's what you desire.
True.
And I love that message.
Awesome, bro.
I think more people need to hear it.
I appreciate that.
That's why I was excited when you told me he was coming.
I haven't seen you in a long time.
bromance kind
Yeah,
of thing.
I know.
I'm over here thinking, it's like, while you're talking, is like, I wonder what, like, Air Force, McDougall, and Marines Herriage, if they would get along.
We would have been some beer drinking fools. I'm just telling you that right now. I drink a lot of beer. We would have had a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, Marines and Air Force? Ooh, I don't know, though.
I got along with everyone, bro.
It's kind of like oil and water, man.
All the pretty girls were on your base, so we could get along. If you let me hang out, like, it would have worked.
It would have been fine. I'd
Yeah.
been cool with it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end, you know, talking about pretty girls on bases.
Sounds good to me.
On Air Force bases, not on first, second, or third base. But anyway, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, man. Likewise. Always pleasure.
Thank you, Ryan.
Take
Thank
care.
you, everyone. We will see you next week.